It's News Talk 580, 1059 KMJ. Welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show. This is attorney Marc Kapetan, your host. Today's show is brought to you by the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm, serving the Central Valley since 1995. If you or anybody you know has been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, give us a call at 559-498-8000. Or if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, call the Kapetan Brothers at 559-498-8000. Hey, folks, today's show is sponsored by Sherlock Realty. Sherlock Realty, if you're searching for a new home and you need a clue, turn to my friend Victoria Sherlock at Sherlock Realty. She's like the Sherlock Holmes of real estate, we like to say. She's a super sleuth for finding your next home. With nearly 20 years of real estate experience, Victoria will help you find your right home at the right price. That's the important part of it all, right? Get the current home sold and get a new home at the right price. Listen, if you're negotiating the right price, it's something that should be left to the professionals. So Victoria is certainly a professional, right, Marcella? Yes, she says, when it comes to getting the best value for your dollar. So call Victoria Sherlock at Sherlock Realty. Call 559-289-4669. That's 289-4669. Sherlock Realty, the clue to finding your next home. All right, folks, this may be the most special guest I've had, and I'm serious because it's near and dear to my heart. A few weeks ago, it's 2 a.m. in the morning, I'm working on a case at home, and in the background, I have a TV show, Forensic Files, playing, which is one of those shows that recounts the investigations that solve some of the most strange and mysterious murders in America. On that particular show, it was about a woman who was killed after receiving ominous letters from a stalker. At some point, the husband is suspected, and as part of the investigation, the police hire one of the foremost experts in the science of forensic linguistics to review the letters and to help solve the crime. This expert does not review handwriting samples like you may have seen on other shows. Instead, his expertise is in analyzing syntactic and stylistic patterns of writing. In the end, this expert proves that the husband and the stalker are indeed one and the same, ultimately leading to a murder conviction of the husband. But that's not the sole reason this expert is my next guest. The kicker is that Forensic Files announces him as an expert in linguistics, and get this, one of the singers and the founders of the 1960s and 70s doo-wop band Sha Na Na. Instantly, my ears perk up. I'm so excited because I'm hearing a guy who practices something in the legal field, and he is also a musician. It is the perfect guest for the Marc Kapetan Show. And get this, after a little bit of research, I find that my next guest not only performed with Sha Na Na, he performed, of all places, at Woodstock at the personal invitation and insistence of none other than Jimi Hendrix. So let's welcome to the show, the Marc Kapetan Show, maybe the most anticipated guest I've ever had, from Sha Na Na, renowned professor of linguistics, Dr. Robert Leonard. Welcome, Robert.
Thanks, Mark. It's quite an intro. You're very kind, and
you asked how are we going to get into this show, and I said, "Oh, believe me, it'll sound great." I'll tell you, I was so excited. I'm up at 2 already, and I think I was up till about 3 or 4 researching Sha Na Na and everything you had done. So before we go really deep into all this, I just want to get an overall visual from you, Doctor. You are a 20-year-old student. You're at Columbia University. It's the summer of 1969, just months before you've started an acappella band with your brother George and friends called Sha Na Na. You've played about maybe 8 shows. You've played 1 professional show where you got paid, and now your second professional show is in front of 400,000 people, not just people, hippies. You're in gold lame dress, basically, and You're at Max. You was a Yasker's Dairy Farm in Bethel, New York, with some of the greats of rock and roll. Just take me to that moment, stepping on stage. What's going through your head?
Wow. Well, around 6 months prior, my brother told me, he's all of 23. He said, "Rob, call the boys to your apartment." Now, this was a acappella group at Columbia University, right? Columbia College. We called the Kingsmen. And he said, "I have an idea." So I was the leader of the group. So I said, "All right, everybody come over. George wants to talk to us." And my brother says, "Boys," and he goes around the room and points at everybody. He says, "I'm going to make you rock and roll stars."
Oh,
now, imagine yourself.
Yeah.
Imagine yourself. I mean, we're in acapella. We're wearing blazers and things, and Rob's crazy brother George has decided we're going to be rock and roll stars. I mean, what would your reaction be?
Yeah, right. So, were they musicians or anything, or just singers in a group?
We were all acapella group. Yeah, we were an acapella group, or nowadays it would be acapella, but several of us played instruments. And he was going to turn us into a 50s band. Now, there were no 50s yet. I mean, there was a Happy Days and all that.
We're going to get into that. There was none of it yet. Yeah.
No. And we were avant-garde. As a matter of fact, so we played at Columbia. Everybody loved it. The only other gig we got was at the most inside nightclub in all of New York City called Steve Paul's Scene. It was half owned by Andy Warhol.
Oh, wow.
And they loved avant-garde. And they also loved the 50s. And we became sort of the house band there. And that's where I met Jimi Hendrix. One night, I'm Teen Angel, answer me, please. I'm on my knees crying, my dead girlfriend in the song Teen Angel.
Right.
Answer me. And I look up, and not 6 feet away, there's Jimi Hendrix.
Already famous. He's been about 2 years famous, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. All of the biggest, he was one of the biggest stars in the world.
Right.
And he's going right on. And I talked to him, and he showed me how to, every time I have a margarita with the salt and the lime, I think about him, because he taught me how to do that night. I didn't
put the salt on the rim. To put the salt on the rim of the margarita.
No, on your
the palm of your hand or whatever. Part of your hand. Yeah,
that's right. And hung out with him and everything, and he just loved us. He was great. And
well, you know what's funny though is I just thought about it, because you said Andy Warhol and stuff. Jimi Hendrix played with Little Richard, which was a 50s band. Andy Warhol and all those guys.
With them.
Well, and they were all. But I'm saying he played with them when Little Richard was playing 50s music, basically. Andy Warhol and all those guys, they favored you because that was sort of their music, huh?
Well, it was their music growing up too. I mean, one time we played in Detroit. It was us, B.B. King, and Little Richard.
Yeah.
Amazing. But anyway, so Jimi Hendrix is buying me, or we didn't have to buy it, but, giving me drinks and talking about how great we are. And I thought back 5 months prior.
Yeah.
George went around and said, "Boys, I'm going to make you rock and roll stars." Right. And I said, "Holy Hannah." He was right.
He was right. George actually choreographed you guys too, right?
Absolutely. He choreographed us. We went across the East River to Astoria to a costume rental place, and we got, among other things, 3 gold lame suits from defunct Bye Bye Birdie, which was about Elvis Presley, Bye Bye Birdie companies. So that's why I was in gold lame. 3 of us did mostly dancing in the front.
Was it purely a parody, or did you think that you guys were actually going to bring back 50s music and it was going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread?
All of those things.
Really?
It wasn't a parody, but you have to realize that there's a lot of inherent humor involved, or wryness in a lot of the songs,
right.
Where, I mean, in my signature song was Teen Angel.
Yeah.
And that fateful night, the car was stalled upon the railroad track. I pulled you out and we were saved, but you went running back. What was it you were looking for that took your life that night? They said they found my high school ring clutched in your fingers tight. So she goes back because she wants the high school. I mean, really.
Folks, you have to see this on you have to see this on Facebook because he's literally reliving his Woodstock performance. I mean, I just watched the Woodstock performance just a couple nights ago. You could actually watch Teen Angel. You could watch At the Hop. Okay, I'm going to fast forward you. You are now.
Wait.
Okay, go ahead.
Best. I wasn't on the TV show, so if they want to see the best Teen Angel, it's we were at the Fillmore East.
Yeah.
And so Sha Na Na, Teen Angel, Fillmore East, really beautifully done thing.
I'll look that up too.
Okay. But you asked me about.
Okay, hold on. I got to go, Ben, and we'll get to that. We got to go to a break.
Sure.
So we're going to go to a break. We are on, this is a wild story, folks. We are on with Dr. Robert Leonard. He's a forensic linguistics, a professor at Hofstra University, and the original singer, one of the original singers for Sha Na Na. We'll be right back after this. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. It's News Talk 580 1059 KMJ. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. Folks, you know the drill. If you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, if you've been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, I know you are sitting there, you're hurting, you're confused, you don't know exactly what to do. The best thing you could do is to call your local attorney. Do not call these LA and San Francisco schlubs, as I like to call them, because they try to take the clients from the local attorneys, and they don't know the system. They don't know the judges. They don't know the district attorneys as well as we do here. Call your local attorney. Call the Kapetan brothers. I don't care if you call us or call any local attorney. Give us a call, and we'll ease your concerns. We'll answer your questions. It's 559-498-8000. Once again, 559-498-8000. Kapetan Brothers. We are the Valley's law firm. We are back on with Dr. Robert Leonard. He is a forensic linguist and the founding member of the singer of Sha Na Na, and singer of Sha Na Na. Doctor, we were talking about your first moments on stage at Woodstock, which is just an amazing story. Invited personally by Jimi Hendrix to go to Woodstock. Tell me how that occurred and what led up to you being on that stage singing Teen Angel.
So after the night of hanging out with Jimi Hendrix, which really I still have to pinch myself, just amazing how I idolized him. I didn't really know much about modern rock and roll. I mostly listened to soul. I went down to the Apollo Theater on 125th Street and knew doo-wop and rhythm and blues. But the one god of all of that was Jimi Hendrix. So to be hanging out with him was really amazing. So we were told later that it was Jimmy who put in the word for us from the bookers that we should be at Woodstock, because I didn't know what Woodstock was. And what happened was, like a week later, I went into our dressing room, which is about as big as this table I'm sitting at. Yeah. And there's this hippie right out of Central Casting, stoned out of his mind, giving me the peace sign, little pinwheels instead of eyes. Right. He says, "You guys," he says, smiling, "You guys." I said, yeah, thank you very much. You know, I'm walking him out the door, and our manager, my brother's friend, another 23-year-old, stops me, and we fall down, the three of us, and he gets up and he brushes off the stoned hippie. And he apparently didn't even know he had been on the floor, and he says, "You guys have to be at Woodstock." And I said, "Ed," to my manager, "what's Woodstock?" He says, "You'll find out." And it was a good thing. If I had been successful in throwing him out, he was the main booker of Woodstock, this guy. Okay.
So Jimmy recommends you guys. This guy comes to see who you guys are and says, "We want you at Woodstock."
That's right. But I tried to throw him out of the dressing room because, you know, there was a lot of really stoned people, nice guys. But wait. And if I had, we never would have gotten to Woodstock, because that night, organized crime closed the scene for non-payment of dues. And with tear gas and everything in the world, our lead guitarist, 80-year-old grandmother was there. My parents were there in this den of iniquity with tear gas going, and it never opened again.
Oh my gosh! So that was the last time you played that club.
That was the last time anybody played that.
Okay, you're talking about your dad was a federal judge. I mean, you're saying he was there? He was supportive of the potential music career you guys were had.
God, there's this great documentarian, a photographer who would photograph at the Fillmore East.
Yeah.
And when we performed at the Fillmore East, there's this 2-page spread with all these whacked out hippies screaming, yelling, everything, and there is my father in a jacket and tie.
Oh my God!
And they came to every gig that they could possibly do. They loved it.
You got to find that photo for me. We have some pictures of my parents and then also my drummer's grandmother sitting in the audience, just with earplugs in, and just how supportive they were. All right, so now you're booked at Jimmy's insistence, and you are now. There was already a vibe. People knew that there was this big festival coming up, basically. Because no one knew it as Woodstock.
There were a lot of festivals. I asked a couple of the other bands at Steve Polsine. They knew about it, and they said, yeah, they'd heard about it. I said, oh, are you guys going? And they said, no.
Right.
So I said, oh, okay.
No one expected
good.
No one expected there to be 400,000 people at this festival, right?
Well, that's for sure. Okay. Yeah.
So do you think you're playing just another gig, or do you know that it's going to be a big deal?
Well, we didn't know anything at the time. However, we were supposed to go on like midnight Saturday night or something. And so by the time, after a couple of days, as you know, everything went to hell in a basket.
Yeah, technical difficulties, rain, everything, right?
Yeah, you can say that again. Yeah. And they set up a command post at a motel quite far away from the actual performance area, because you couldn't get in. The roads were washed out. There were millions of people, abandoned cars, and they were helicoptering in bands from the motel. So we made it to the motel, and then they came around and they said, okay, we're going to take you guys now in the helicopter to the site.
This is your second professional gig, and you're taking a helicopter in. Oh,
that's right. Well, but I didn't. I took one look at that pilot, and the pilot was stoned out of his brain. And I said, oh, I'll be right back. And I disappeared. And our drummer and my manager stayed back to look for me. And it was like a troop transport helicopter. It had an enormous open door on one side. God. And sure enough, as they got near the site, he banked. And our first tenor, Dave Garrett, almost slipped out the door and got, I said, I think I made the right. So we came in a car, and it was amazing because it looked like a bombed out site. I mean, it was just amazing. I mean, I really got the view of what was going on
at the farm.
And it was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it the peace, love, free love, drugs?
Absolutely that.
Really?
It was. Because, look, at one point there were 500,000 people there, or maybe 400,000.
Right.
And there was not one intentional act of violence. Think about that.
Amazing.
Not one, especially because there was, violence happens when there's competition for scarce supplies and things. There was no food, no water, no this, no that. Not one intentional act of violence. Yeah. And that's true.
It would never happen again. Yeah.
No, and it didn't. I mean, Altamont was very soon after that.
Right. And there were stabbings and exactly.
Right. And Hell's Angels.
All right. So you're supposed to go on at 12 midnight, but I understand everything is delayed, including Jimmy's performance, until 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock the next morning.
Right. But Jimmy was offered to go on. And he said, no, there are still bands that need to go on.
He insisted that you guys go on before him.
This is what but I didn't run into him before we went on. As a matter of fact, wait, a couple years later, there's this, a documentary, the complete Jimi Hendrix at Woodstock. Okay. And it's, the video and you name it. And they asked me and Jimmy's drummer, I think it was, or maybe his rhythm guy, to be on the in the documentary. Mm-hmm. And I go to 8th Street and I go to that Electric Lady
Ladyland Studios, right.
Yeah. It's a terrible road, and I see, okay, here it is. I knock, I ring, and the door opens and everything is purple. Right. And incense comes wafting out. I walk into this tiny little vestibule, and a soft voice says, "Yes, what can I do for you?" I said, "I'm Rob Leonard, Sean." And I said, "Oh, yes." Click, and the door opens, and we go down this staircase with incense, patchouli,
oil. Yeah,
it was just amazing.
And,
all right, so they make me up and they sit me down and they say to me, "Okay, Rob, what was the last thing Jimi Hendrix said to you before he went on?" And I said, "Guys, I didn't see Jimmy there. We left before he went on."
Oh.
And they look at each other and they shake their heads. I said, "Come over here." And they turn on a TV monitor, and there I am with Jimmy at Woodstock.
Oh, there's a film of
Yes.
you watching
Yes.
Jimi Hendrix play, and you don't remember it.
No, actually, it's a film of him watching us, but we were in the same area. But in that clip of me at Woodstock, that Jimmy is watching me and going, "Yeah."
And I asked you before we're done, and we're going to go to a break right now. I asked you if you saw Jimi Hendrix play the Star Spangled Banner, and you said you don't really remember. So it truly was free love and whatever else goes along with it. We're going to be right back after this with Dr. Robert Leonard, forensic linguist and singer of Sha Na Na, a performer at Woodstock, believe it or not. We'll be right back. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. It's News Talk 580 105.9 KMJ. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. Folks, a little shout out to our sponsor, Sherlock Realty. If you are looking for a new home or looking to sell your current home, call my friend Victoria Sherlock at 559-289-4669. CV Lux Magazine voted Sherlock Realty their top realtor award. So if you're looking for the right home at the right price, call Victoria at Sherlock Realty. It's 559-289-4669. That's 559-289-4669. Sherlock Realty, the clue to finding your next home. We are back on with Dr. Robert Leonard, who is a forensic linguist that I saw on Forensic Files, by the way, the murder mystery type documentary show, and also the lead singer and founder, along with his brother George, from Columbia University, for the band Sha Na Na that played Woodstock. So, Doctor, you're now at Woodstock. You're on stage. You give this just really, teenage angst animated performance, and you're great. What a great actor you are on stage. And the crowd, a bunch of hippies, instead of booing or something, this 50s act, they love it.
They love it. They loved it. They went bonkers. It was just so entertaining. Also, realize there were 12 of us, all dressed like, hoods
and greasers and all that.
And greasers, yeah. And 3 of us are in Elvis Presley gold lame, doing very intense choreography and filling up the stage. And there was just so much good-natured humor in there and in joy that people really responded well. I mean, if you look at the there's a director's cut on. You're talking about the director's cut of Woodstock? No, I was actually thinking, Woodstock, we spent the entire night on stage. Mm-hmm. So when we stumbled up to the microphones at 7 a.m. instead of, "Oh, baby," it was, "Baby." And I went out of tune. So I really like to direct people to the Fillmore East version. I mean, the people would just rip the seats out of the floor. They just loved it so much. And as I told you, Jimmy loved it. Janis Joplin loved it. Santana, everybody we played with, the Grateful Dead adored what we were doing. I always like to say these days that I'm one of the very few people in the world, probably I'm the only person in the world, who has worked with both the FBI and the Grateful Dead. I have that as one of your quotes. I love that. Well, what kills me, man, is I've been in bands my whole life. You guys made $700 for Woodstock. I've never made that amount, playing. So, I mean... Well, and the check bounced, so... Oh, it did?
Really?
Yeah, well, I think so. That's what Jacko told me.
That's funny. Okay, after the show, I mean, it must be thrilling. You're now playing, like you said, Fillmore East, Fillmore West, and you named some of the bands, Bruce Springsteen, eventually, all that kind of stuff.
I must say, though, even when I was there, we were one of the 25 top earning bands in the country. You have to realize that of the million bands, most never make anything, or they make a couple of $100.
Even
and we were making thousands.
Even in the 2 years that you were there from 69 to 71.
Absolutely.
I didn't realize that.
Almost immediately.
Okay, here's what's amazing to me, and we may never find out what your real feelings were at Woodstock, but it sounds like that you probably don't even remember what those feelings were.
I was tired. So I have to say one thing, though, Mark. I never took drugs. And that's not why I don't remember. I mean, I drank, but
I'll tell you.
I never took drugs. So, I mean, the guys who say, if you were in the 60s and you remembered, you weren't there.
You and I have something in common, and that's probably the reason why you graduated cum laude from Columbia.
We're still here, too. The reason I got out of the band is because everybody I knew was dying of drug overdoses and things.
I saw
Janice
the same
died.
thing.
Jimmy died. Our own lead guitarist died of an overdose of heroin very soon after I left. And it just wasn't
I saw
fun
that.
anymore.
I saw that. And that's one of the questions I had was the death of Jimi Hendrix less than a year later influential on you saying, I got to give up this? Because you said you're making money at music. Dad's probably sitting there going, maybe this is a career.
Money. Yeah.
But that was part of your reason for switching.
It was terrible. And Janice, too. I used to sit in the Fillmore West backstage with her and drink her wine. And I drank her wine, by the way, because any other bottle of wine was going to have tons of acid and PCP and you name it in there. Because what they would do is they'd open a thing of wine. You were allowed to just drink there and throw something in there, have a swig, pass it around. And then by the time it came back to you, it would have 20 different drugs. So I was always afraid.
She wasn't into that?
She never took drugs. That's why it was so astounding that she seems to have died of, I guess it was heroin. I don't remember. But I and all the people who knew her were amazed because she never took drugs.
I never knew that.
Yeah. She was famous for it. But she drank. And she really drank. We played at Festival Express in Calgary. This was the Canadian Woodstock. And I saw her take this bottle of tequila that I could barely sip, and I drank a lot of hard liquor in those days.
Yeah.
And she cracked the thing, and in her, I don't know, it was maybe a 40-minute set, so she's singing for 35 minutes. She drank the entire bottle of tequila straight, and her pitch was perfect the entire time. And the night before, the other guys told me she had drunk 7 bottles of it. So once you get to that level of needing that just to be normal, I guess the next step is drugs.
Yeah, maybe you're lucky you got out of it. Do you guys? You and your brother, or did you and your brother, and did you guys realize? Most kids don't know there was no American Graffiti. It came out about 4 years later. There's no Grease, the Broadway musical. There's no Happy Days.
Grease was a total copy of us. In those days, nobody was suing anybody. So we would just go there. We were friends with them. We thought it was nice.
That's what I'm saying. You guys were that influential on a whole generation. Is Stray Cats, everything,
Sure.
Yeah.
We're also credited with inventing punk. The historians of music say that. So
I'll tell you, I never thought about that, but taking simple 50s songs and doing them faster, more aggressive, and with fun.
And look at the outfits too. Sid Vicious in his biography, I think he's talking to somebody, and then he says, "Wait a minute, Sha Na Na's on the telly. They are me favorite." Oh,
no kidding.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating. Your brother's still around?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, thank both of you guys for us. But all right, listen, you were voted by, I think, Time Magazine number 2 smartest rock and roll guy in the world. Yeah. We're going to get to you going to Columbia, graduating with that and masters of philosophy and a ton of other accolades. We're going to get right back to this. This is Dr. Leonard. He is Robert Leonard. He is a forensic linguist and the singer and founder, along with his brother George, of the great band Sha Na Na. We'll be right back after this on the Marc Kapetan Show. This is KMJ. It's News Talk 580, 105.9 KMJ. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. Folks, I want to get right back into it with Dr. Robert Leonard from Sha-Na-Na, a forensic linguist. So I'm just going to quickly say, hey, if you have been arrested, I'm going to pot this music down. If you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, or if you've been in an accident, you know the drill. Call who, Marcella? The Kapetan brothers, she knows, and everybody else out there knows because we say it every darn week over and over and over. 559-498-8000, Kapetan Brothers. We are the Valley's law firm. All right, we are back on, folks, like I told you, it's 2 o'clock at night. I'm watching Forensic Files. There's this gentleman that they announce who solves a murder mystery along with other officers. He's a forensic linguist. He analyzes the patterns of writings, basically, and finds out that a potential stalker is actually the killer of this woman, who is actually also her husband. And I think it's fascinating. Dr. Leonard, your education is unbelievable. You have a PhD in linguistics. You received a Fulbright fellowship to study in Africa. Time magazine, like I said, called you number 2 rock star, smartest rock star, behind, by the way, Brian May of Queen, astrophysicist.
Yes, because he's an astrophysicist.
Right, yeah, and they always beat the forensic linguist.
I think I'll sue them, yeah.
You researched East African tribes. You speak French, Spanish, Italian, Thai, Arabic, several varieties of Eastern African tribes. You've been well-traveled, studied in Hawaii, Kenya, Bangkok. It goes on and on. New Yorker magazine writes that you've emerged as one of the foremost language detectives in the country, and they call you the Sam Spade of semantics. I love that. And so you are literally one of the top forensic linguists. What is this whole science of forensic linguistics? Yeah,
well, the main thing that reaches the public anyway is when we do authorship. For example, in that Hummer case, on Forensic Files, it's A Tight Leash.
Oh, that's the name of the title. That's right, of the show.
Yeah,
A Tight
that
Leash.
Show.
Right.
This man is receiving threatening letters to his wife. Then she's found murdered. And then as the investigation heats up and they start suspecting the husband, another letter comes from a self-proclaimed serial killer. Says, I killed her. I killed Charlie Hummer, not her husband. And so the major crime squad of the Pennsylvania State Police came to me and they said, what can you tell us about whoever wrote these letters? And on their face, they seemed very, very different. The second one was scrawled. It had grammatical mistakes and cross-outs. The first one was very wordy and perfectly typed and all.
Right.
But when you look under the surface, the veneer of making believe, of making some mistakes to dumb down, to masquerade one's writing, under the hood, they looked very, very much the same. The narration was really skillfully done. They had flashbacks, flash forwards. It was so well done, you didn't even know it was happening. Imagine that.
Do you actually see it? Like I tell people when they come in and they're talking to me about criminal cases and stuff, like I say, I could see the face of a drug addict and the way they talk and the fact that they're lying. It's almost like someone throwing it in our face. Do you see it that clearly?
Oh, sure.
Wow.
Well, it depends. I mean, the ones we see clearly, but right. There's so much intelligence so much information packed into language. Your language is your style, is your individual habits, the idiolect, your own dialect. It's based on where you were brought up, where you lived, what your education is, what sports you watch, who you hang out with. You have a totally unique language. Different from everybody else. And in authorship, like that Hummer case, we were able to discern that it was very, very likely that it was Brian Hummer who had written both those letters. And the jury said that was pretty good evidence that he had set his wife up, because the first letter said the time is right for payback. So that was my first murder case. I'm horrified that I can say my first murder case. Because I've had so many of them.
You've had many of them, including John Benet Ramsey. On the exact opposite side, you proved that the person who confessed to the murder was a false confession.
That's right. Yeah, he was just trying to get out of Thailand, and they airlifted him out to Colorado Springs, and I kept saying, no, he didn't write the ransom note. He didn't write the ransom note. And a handwriting guy every morning on Good Morning America said, I'll stake my reputation. He wrote. Then the DNA evidence came in. He had nothing to do with it. He was just manipulating everybody to get to the United States because he was in hot water in Thailand.
And the DNA verified your expertise, basically.
Yeah, well, I guess so, yeah.
Tennessee Facebook murders, it was the quotation marks that helped identify the killer.
Well, a lot of things there. My God. I mean, we do punctuation is great because punctuation is so unique. Is do you use commas? For example, Hummert in the first case, he never contracted positive verbs. He never said I'm. He would always say I am. And like 60 or 70 opportunities to give a contraction, never did it. I'd never seen that pattern before.
I hate to tell you, oh my God, I can't believe this, because as I'm writing my notes on your case, I'm not, and I switched it to I am not, because I hate using whatever you call them, contractions. Basically.
Yeah. Right. So it's always a whole pattern of different features that either match or we expect to match and don't match.
I got one for you. So a couple days later, I'm watching a movie, Zodiac, based on what is it, the book by Robert Graysmith, etc. There's always been a suspect that they think is the prime guy, was Arthur Lee Allen, who died in 1992. Any attempts or people coming to you, or even just your own for your own fun, let's say, to sit there and say, gee, can I take because they say there's a box of letters and try to prove something like that?
Yeah, Zodiac's very popular, I guess is the word, because it's such an intriguing case. And around, 10 years ago, I was contacted by an investigator, and he said, I know who Zodiac is. I'm going to go visit him in this max security prison, and I want you to come with me. And I said, why would I want to do that? He said, no, you have to, because I said, I don't go into prisons on purpose, ever. I learned that in Africa. And I don't think I want to. Too bad we didn't have Zoom in those days. Yeah. So anyway, everybody said, no, you have to. They said, he's about to die. I said, okay. So I'm going to go to wherever it was, Kansas, or to this max security prison, and interview this guy and elicit from him different types of language that I'm going to be able to compare to the Zodiac letters. And lucky for me, at that very moment, some unit in the FBI decided that he was theirs and nobody else was going to be allowed in. And even with my contacts with the behavioral analysis unit, it would have been interesting to see
it'd have been interesting to see your findings. You are now the director of the Institute for Forensic Linguistics, Threat Assessment, and Strategic Analysis. That's a mouthful, by the way, for a linguist.
Took me forever to make up.
At Hofstra University. Explain that.
Sure. Hofstra University is the only place that had the foresight to establish a graduate degree in forensic linguistics. Forensic linguistics is what's coming in the future. It's the scientific analysis of language evidence. Yeah.
No, go ahead. I got about 30 seconds,
Right. So confessions, threat letters, you name it. We scientifically analyze them, not just by the seat of one's pants.
You say that kids that are interested in it should contact Hofstra University. It sounds like a fascinating field and plenty of business for you.
Oh gosh, yes. And my kids go on to FBI and CIS or back to being singers, or one of them is a great rapper.
Well, that's what I want to know. Any thoughts of going back to Sha Na Na all these years later?
No. The group just disbanded. They've been going for 52 years.
There's your entry back into it, man. We're getting the band back together. This has been Dr. Robert Leonard, forensic linguist and a founding member of Sha Na Na. It's just been a pleasure having you on the show. And
pleasure talking to you, Mark.
Everybody go watch Sha Na Na at Woodstock, at Fillmore East and West. Watch Forensic Files, and you can see Dr. Robert Leonard. Thanks again, pal. I appreciate it.
Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. We'll see you next week on the Marc Kapetan Show. Stay tuned for the restaurant tours right after this. This is KMJ.